Dexter Fabian.
I told Bree that even Andrew, who works with me, like I've never really told my story since moving here, and I figured this might be a pretty serendipitous opportunities when Bree presented like what the themes were, and the first one that came out was Journey. It is literally has been a journey. So, first and foremost, my name is Dexter Julius Orolfo Fabian. I am the publisher of I Love the Berg, and That's So Tampa. Yeah. Oh wait, so am I going back? Oh, hold on, sorry. I want drum rolls again. Yeah. So I was born in Manila, Philippines. It's not black and white, so it's a little later. It was actually during the martial law era. I don't know if how familiar you are. When you probably are familiar with the Marcoses, maybe. Imelda Marcos, the shoes. Yeah, so it was during that era. So, it was probably, I grew up like 7 years through that. But anyway, I have notes, sorry. This is my family. I was born to my mom and my dad. My dad is a farmer, and they are the first in both sides of their family to ever graduate college. My dad is an engineer, my mom is an accountant. So I guess that's a proud thing for us to be able to put all of us through school. And I have 4 siblings. There's only 3 there so far. That's me behind that. I think that's my sister's birthday. And this is my whole family. So there's a huge age gap so I'm the middle child. So there's a middle child syndrome here where you're trying to really, prove yourself and be better than the rest. So that was kind of how growing up was for me. But we all are a pretty close family. My dad passed away a couple years ago, but they are all still in the Philippines. I'm the only one here. That was me realizing that I think I was gay. I guess you could say I was an early bloomer. But just like any middle child too, it's like you really try to excel at school. You're, a straight A student, that kind of stuff. I was pretty much I got myself pretty. I realized that I was pretty good in the arts, I guess, in a way, like writing or illustrating, that kind of stuff. That was my affinity, but I was at that time. Like maybe elementary through high school, I was still good at science, math, and all that until I got to college, and I realized okay, calculus, statistics, accounting was not for me. No math, no numbers, no memorization. So that's why I can't memorize anything. I cannot be a lawyer or a doctor. And something that I kind of felt jealous about with other people from the very, day one, they know that they're going to be lawyers, they're going to be engineers, they're going to be doctors, So it's it was me trying to figure out what do I really want to be? What do I really want to do? It was a pretty, I don't know, there was a lot of discovery for me. And then even as I got to college, I even got into theater and realized, I did on stage and backstage and realized I'm not made for the stage. I hated it. Every single show was I was always just like nervous and a nervous wreck, and I couldn't remember my lines to save myself. So that so that's when I realized, like, okay, but I was getting into communications. I loved the idea of advertising, marketing. So I actually shifted gears from my early college years to just getting into the more creative parts of school. But it was funny because I felt like it was still like trying to keep it safe by taking business courses and at the same time doing, the creative stuff, just so I have a fallback. And once I got out of college, oh yeah, so these are all, so I knew for sure that I was gay. Like all my friends were pretty much in the same boat. So this was me in my first job. It was funny, like as soon as I graduated from college, I just took on whatever job I could get because I just wanted to get out of the house, I think. I landed in a graphic design agency, and I had no idea what graphic design was. Yeah, this is like early 2000s. Ad agencies, yes, I got it. Like TV, I knew TV commercials, all that stuff, radio. But design was like, what's grand design? Like, but I was just like faking it just to get the job. So I was hired as a visualizer. Again, didn't know what that was. What the fuck? And like within, I think, I had a 6-month probation within the first 3 months. I think they were like, I don't know if this is going to be a fit for you. If you don't step it up, kind of, produce something. So that's where it kind of hit me that I kind of had to put in a lot more effort and work into this and figure out what the hell I was doing. So luckily I had a great art director. Her name's Anne. She actually also moved to New York. But she taught me a lot of things about design, about things, getting just getting out of the usual, whatever the usual thing you saw in advertising, like the not to go for the obvious, like the concept of, I don't know if you're familiar with this, like horror vacui, which is the fear of open spaces. Like for design, it's like everyone tries to put in everything into whatever design they're making, but there's something to be said about minimal and getting the message there more directly or more creatively, more impactful. So she's now, that art director now, even she has a Wikipedia page to herself. She's written for Quartz. She taught me about Milton Glaser and Lubelikova. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I actually brought this one piece that I actually still, I guess, resonated with me. This is actually a design by Lubelikova, and it might help me here, just to show. So it's a poster right now, but basically how simple this design was and how it says design ignites change. So I think this was kind of ignited some kind of fire in me. And I guess I turned, I think it was 24, I knew it wasn't I've always wanted to travel. I remember the first time I ever traveled was when I could afford it, when I got my job, like, and then I went to Hong Kong, and it was like, oh, this is pretty amazing. So um, when I turned 25, I thought, I don't think this is the last, the last place for me. I decided I was gonna live somewhere else. Um, and but I had, so going back, I had two options really. I had enough money to buy a secondhand car or a plane ticket. That was, if I had stayed, I mean, I would be more mobile. I could get up, probably in the ranks of agency life. And oh wait, I skipped a few things. Sorry. So yeah, these are some of my work. I mean, this is old shit, but but I also did styling for a magazine in the Philippines. So I was kind of getting into the whole creative sphere, and I was kind of loving it. But it was limiting too. I wanted something more, I guess. So fast forward, yeah, like I said, like I had it was either a plane ticket or getting a second-hand car. So obviously I got my ticket, and I wasn't sure. I mean, I had a little bit of pocket money, but I don't know how. I didn't know how long it was going to last me. And this was kind of post 9/11 too, so it was a little tricky to get into the U.S. So, but I had one of my best friends living in New York already at that time, and he was like, why don't you just come here, visit me, see what you think. So I decided, yeah, I was leaving, and all my family were like, what the fuck? Like, where did this come from? Where did you get your money? So I basically put everything in the piggy bank. You don't get paid much over there. So a plane ticket was a big deal. So it was a tough decision. They weren't expecting it either, but they were very much supportive. They knew I was different, that it was something I had to do. And so I came to New York in the middle of friggin' winter. My first snow, like as I landed on JFK, it was pretty like, oh, this is really pretty. And then you get out, like the first few days are like, oh, this is fun. And then you realize like, oh, this is kind of miserable. I'm really just from the tropics. I'm made for hence St. Pete, but we'll get there. But yeah, like I had all this, imagined everything New York to be like the tall buildings, Tiffany's. I was like breakfast at Tiffany's was one of the first places I visited when I landed. Like, okay, I was gonna go to Tiffany's, just to see, what it was. But it was pretty cool. And then, sorry, I don't have this coordination between visuals and so the hard part about being in New York was like it was post 9/11. Like I said, it was hard to find any kind of job. Nobody was really hiring immigrants. It was a little like I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I was living off of the dollar menu of McDonald's, or the dollar pizzas at Ray's, or whatever street food. I took on odd jobs. Like I actually I started out as designer for a Filipino paper in Jersey City. Hated it. I was designing phone cards. It was fine. It was a job. And but I was I was having a tough time navigating, like, okay, was this really it for me? And then I realized, like, me being truly trying to be independent, I didn't want to go back home and say that I failed or whatever. Not that my family would have really cared. They would have been fine. They would have taken me back, but it just wasn't me. So kept on going, kept on looking. And then I met this guy, Brian. So this was pre all apps and stuff. So it was pretty different back in the day. Like, yeah, you started out with emails, graduating to really short text messages, because every single text had a value, and then graduating into phone calls, and then you actually had a date. Anyway, he was a vice president for the largest and biggest PR firm in New York. But he was also kind of tired of the rat race in a way. So he, like, learning about each other a little bit more, and our skills, it kind of made a perfect sense for us to start our own thing, which was a marketing firm. He did PR, I did design. So it was a good combination until you start working with somebody you live with. It gets trickier. But being a small business too, it was tough being in the big city, competing with larger, agencies. So in 2006, we decided, okay, time for a change. So 2006, we moved to St. Pete. It was another journey, because we didn't know a single person here. All we knew was a realtor and an accountant. And we looked at Sarasota, we looked at Tampa. It wasn't nothing was hitting us. And then we had one client out of Sarasota, which is why the reason why we stumbled upon St. Pete or the Tampa Bay area. It was coming down here, during these months, and it would be nice and sunny, and going back to New York, and it was like snow and slush. So it was an easy choice. So we stumbled at Saturday morning market, one of those days that we were looking, and realized, like, oh, St. Pete's kind of like a mini Manhattan, It's like, you've got the grid system, That was easy. Like, I didn't drive at that time, so I was like, okay, this is doable, and it was walkable, so it was perfect, at least to start with. Although it was a little too white at that time. So I was like a little worried, but we'll make it work. It was, I think, the thing that got me sold and we were living in Roser Park, was all these, our neighbors. The first day that we moved in, this gay couple across the street came, and of course, one of them was French, and he brought a piece of pie. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this. So yeah, and then I just realized, like, the whole neighborhood was actually pretty diverse, from all ages, different races and orientation. So it was a pretty cool neighborhood. It was up and coming at that time. Um, so that's where um, we lived for a long, and that also served as our office. Like we had, we when we were starting our agency, the good thing that we had between our realtor and accountant was that they were great social butterflies. Like introduced us to the right people, met the right people, so that we actually got a few more of our clients. But then we weren't really getting a lot of traction, so we actually started out we started I Love the Berg in 2009, and in that journey, I Love it was, I think, the start of Facebook. It wasn't a big thing yet. Pages were new. We were like, oh, we love St. Pete. Let's try and use this to showcase our social media skills. I guess we wanted to be ahead of the curve, so I was just posting anything and everything that I loved about St. Pete on a daily basis. There was, Saturdays and Sundays we would post something, even, and then at some point, it was just like kind of blowing up. Like, oh, it started with 5,000 followers. Like, oh wow, so this is really something. So, but we kept at it. Had our agency that was like our bread and butter. I Love the Berg we eventually used it as our way to get our foot in the door. We got a little bit of notoriety. I met great people, great small businesses. This is where, I think, Kawa was one of them. Like we started, and there was like maybe 1 or 2 coffee shops back then. And they were, mom and pop, maybe 2 locations at that time. And we started getting a lot more traction because of what we were doing. Eventually it became something that we had to feed. It was a beast. It became a beast. But I knew there was something to it. It had a lot of potential, as in the same way that we thought St. Pete had a lot of potential. There was so much to talk about. There was so much growth that was still to be made, to be had, to discover, and then we started That's So Tampa about 4 or 5 years later, because it just made sense. We've had a good amount of. By the way, I had failed to mention, branding was a thing. So I think one of the good things that we were lucky to had the skill for was branding and a sense of marketing put into publishing. So we knew what we were, we knew what we wanted to be. We didn't want to be another newspaper, or we didn't want to be the Times. We wanted to keep that connection with our community. We wanted to keep that connection with like you were basically visiting a friend, and they were giving you the advice or what to do on where to go and that kind of stuff. And in those years we've had a lot of people work with us, and you have Andrew. You're probably more familiar with Andrew and Isa on I Love the Berg and That's So Tampa. They've been with me for 10, 11 years now. So it was something that we've all kind of believed in, and we shared pretty much a lot of the same values, and which made it easier for us to know what we stood for and what we were building. um, we, and then from Facebook, we've, and writing, like we had a website, we had to keep growing it, and Andrew started out as a writer, but then things evolved. We had to change, we had to pivot, so now he's evolved from writing to creating videos and reels and that kind of stuff. So for as fast as things change, that was something that we were we were able to do as a small motley crew. We had enough passion for what we wanted to do to be able to be nimble and change as the landscape changed for us. Because honestly, if you don't, then you're just kind of left in the dust. So like about 15 years later, yeah, we've come. I think we've come a long way, and I'm really proud of where we've gotten, considering coming from that small little bungalow, to becoming the biggest social media platform in the area for the most part. I'd like to take credit for a lot of it, but no, it's really, it's really Andrew, Isa, the team, like Brian. It's been such a journey that and it has given back to us manyfold, that we are, like this community has sustained us for so long, for the past 15 years, and we can only hope to give back as much as we can, for as long as we are still around. I remember when the pandemic happened, and we were losing advertising because everyone was closing. So, and I didn't, we had no choice, but but it was like, okay, how do we deal with this? Like, we just kept on going. We created we pivoted. We started our St. Pete's Supper Club. It was a group where we just wanted to promote all these small business restaurants that were just doing either takeaways or you can order deliveries. Yeah. So on every single day, that's what we were just doing, instead of doing the same old thing, because we felt like this is what the community needed, and this is probably how we could help. So we've always tried to balance these things out between it would be nice if we were just a nonprofit that really just was sustained by, I don't know, some sugar daddy, and we could do everything that we wanted for the community, for ourselves, but unfortunately, we have to put food on the table, kind of thing. So, but we were lucky to find like-minded businesses and organizations, and even other small businesses who found the value in what we did and wanted to be part of it, have that affinity with the community, and support us financially to be able to do the bigger things, to do, to promote the great things that the Berg has to offer. So we strive to continue to do that. It's a hard balance, just because there's so much going on now, but rooted in what we do is that, we will always be a resource for the community. Um, yeah, and that was when we had a proclamation from the city for 15 years, I guess. So as I end this, I just wanted to share, like, like it's been a very, I mean, unbeknownst to me, like where that plane ticket would take me, or how I never imagined knowing so many great people, being invited to so many things that are really super cool, and then being on this stage. It's like, I mean, that's why I told you, like, I don't really do this, but it's I can only be grateful for where it has taken me, and I know there's a lot more to be, that we will all continue to discover in St. Pete and in the whole Tampa Bay region in general. But if I would leave with a few things that I think would be, as a creative or any kind of whatever work you do. I mean, there's few things that I would leave you with. It would be value of tenacity. Like, it's really hard to start, anything, especially as a creative. But sometimes you really just have to put in the work. You keep on going, do the daily tasks, even if it takes, more hours in the day. I know there's a lot to be said about, work and life balance kind of thing. But sometimes we just have to really put in the work. The other thing would be adaptability and how we need to change. I mean, you all see it, like how everything has changed just in St. Pete alone, and how the creative landscape has changed for a lot of us, and how we need to be able to adapt and not be afraid to take on something new, discover that maybe it might be it might be cool. It might be something we can do really well. Be nimble, pivot I know pivot has been used so much, but it still really applies to a lot of things. And for me personally, like being such an independent person, like I said, I always hated asking for help. But it really, like building I Love the Berg and That's So Tampa and everything, or at least even in every phase of my life, I've had to rely on people who knew more than me, who were willing to share their skills, their talents, their knowledge. We need to be able to take that on and use it to our advantage. My team has been pretty, I mean, I can't say enough about them. Sorry. Yeah. And I guess the one last thing would be like, in the same way, the whole idea of being inclusive, hadn't nobody given me an opportunity to do what I can do. Yeah, sorry. It's just make sure to invite somebody to your table. It doesn't take much. You might learn, yeah, you might learn something from them. Um, and who knows what they can eventually bring to your community, to the change that they can bring. Um, and yeah, is that long enough? Hold on. So there's one more thing. I had to bring this. So this is actually this was my return ticket that I never used. So I'm glad I never did.